everybody, this is Flavia and I appreciate you watching. In this video, we will create 3 super cute girly girl cards featuring the Simon Says stamp Be Lovely stamp set. I absolutely love these cuties and I hope you enjoy this video. Before we get started, let me show you the Be Lovely set. I got the stamp and die set bundle because I like to die cut my images, but know that it is an option to get just the stamp set if you prefer. The stamp set comes with 3 large images and a few other elements and sentiments so we can create cards for many different occasions. I also like that they included the word teacher and an apple, allowing us to make cards for teachers as well. I still haven't decided yet which one of these cuties is my favorite. Let me know in the comments down below if you have one. I will begin by stamping these images. I'm using my mini Misty stamping tool just to be safe. I will stamp more than what I need in case I mess it up, and also so I have extra. To stamp these images, I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black Pigment ink. This is a beautiful and rich black ink. However, later you will see that it was a mistake using this ink because I plan on coloring these images with Copic markers, and this type of ink will definitely smudge when used with alcohol markers. The ink that I like to use when coloring with Copic markers is Memento Tuxedo Black, but since I couldn't find my ink pad, I decided to just go for it. The cardstock that I'm using to stamp these images is Neenah Classic Crest cardstock. It is a heavyweight cardstock and great for Copic coloring. The reason why I prefer using my Misty stamping tool is because if I don't get a good result on my first try, it will allow me to fix it by stamping again in the exact same spot, since I have the stamp stuck to the door and the magnet holding the paper in place. This stamping tool is definitely an investment, but totally worth it, especially if you think about how much paper it saves us by keeping us from getting a bad stamped image and wasting the paper. The next step is to color these cuties. As I mentioned before, I will be using Copic markers. I decided to speed up the coloring process because I am not really good at coloring, especially with Copics. But if you're interested in the colors that I'm using, I will place the lid for each marker on my desk with the numbers facing up so you know which color that is. To add some sparkle to their shoes, I will use my Sakura Jelly Roll Stardust pen. I also decided to stamp some apples because I want to make a card for a teacher, and an apple would be a great element for that type of card. This white pen that I'm using to add some interest to these apples is also a Sakura Jelly Roll pen. If you're interested, I will have a list of all products used in this video over my blog, so you don't have to worry about remembering it now. You can always find the link to my blog in the description below. Once all of the coloring is done, I will go ahead and die cut these images using my Gemini Junior die cut machine. Just to be safe and keep the die plates from shifting, as I run it through my die cut machine, I like to tape them in place. You can't really see because I'm using a clear Scotch tape, but I promise it's there. If you do this, just make sure that the tape does not touch the colored image. When I add the tape, I like to place it over the metal die and the section of cardstock that will be cut out. I will only use 3 little girls today, and I will save the other ones for a future project. There was definitely some smudging as I was coloring with my Copic markers, but I think this is fine. If I could go back, I would have left my stamp inside my stamping tool so I could stamp them again after coloring, but before die cutting, just so I could get back some of that crisp and sharp stamped image. But since I cannot do that, using a black pen, I will later go over their eyes and mouth, which are just some of the areas where there was a lot of smudging. Before we start assembling these cards, we have another piece that we need to die cut. I love mix and matching products from different companies to create a new scene, and that's what I'm about to do. This die set is one of my favorites from Spellbinders. This is the Arched A2 and Slimline card creator. I'm using these two outer pieces to create a frame that will go around each one of those cuties. This metallic silver cardstock is the Ideology cardstock pad by Tim Holtz. I will cut out two silver frames and a green one using a beautiful green cardstock by Recollections. Off camera, I also die cut lots of these frames using leftover pieces of white cardstock, and I stacked about 4 die cuts for dimension before adding the top layer, which is gonna be a silver or green cardstock. I wanna freeze the camera here so you can see how much dimension 4 layers of stacked up die cuts adds. However, this step is definitely optional and you don't have to do it if you do not like adding dimension to your projects. Always remember to use a good, strong liquid adhesive so your cards don't start falling apart after you're done. I like to use the Barely Arts glue. I like that this bottle has a very fine tip, which can be very helpful, especially when working with such intricate die cuts like these frames. I'm not really worried about having too much glue oozing out because it is very easy to remove glue from the top of this metallic cardstock. The trick to removing glue from the top of this metallic paper without scratching it is by simply wiping it off with a wet towel. However, I will definitely be careful with the amount of glue that I apply before adding the green die cut piece because this is a regular cardstock and I will not be able to wipe off the glue without damaging the paper. So after I add glue on top of these stacked die cuts, I will use my finger to remove the excess off. Then I will clean my finger before I start lining up the green die cut with the stacked die cuts. If you do not want to deal with the glue oozing out and damaging your project, you could definitely add a piece of double-sided adhesive to the back of your cardstock before you die cut it. But honestly, I'm just used to using liquid adhesive. Off camera, I also created 3 top folding A2 size cards. They measure 5.5 by 4.25 inches wide. For each card, I will place one of the little girls in the center and have a frame around them, plus this rectangular piece at the bottom. But before I add here all of the die cut pieces, I have to decide on which sentiment I want to stamp on these cards. It is better if you stamp the sentiment before adhering the die cut pieces to the card front, since that frame has so much dimension. That is why I have my card panel with all of the die cut pieces inside my stamping tool. For this first card, I will stamp the sentiment Be Lovely, and once I have the stamp on my stamping tool door, I will try to curve it so it fits better under the arched piece. I'm using that same black ink to stamp the sentiment, and I will heat emboss it with clear embossing powder just to make it shiny. For the second card, I will stamp the sentiment Best Teacher. I am again temporarily placing the die cut pieces to help me figure out the best place for me to stamp the sentiment. Once I know it, I will close my mist door to pick up the stamp, remove the die cut pieces, and stamp it with black ink. I will also heat emboss the sentiment and move on to the last card base and repeat that same process. For this last one, I want to use this stamp set that says Be Lovely, Be Curious, Be Happy. However, I thought that it would be a good idea to have the sentences spread out under the arched piece. So, since Jennifer Maguire said that it is okay to do it, I will, for the first time, cut my stamp with a pair of scissors. And yes, I am freaking out as I am doing this. But it worked just fine, and now I have many options for using this sentiment stamp. I can use all of the 3 sentences together, or just 1 or 2, and position them any way I like. Another thing that we need to do before we start putting the pieces together is to make skirts out of silver heat embossed vellum. This is a genius idea by Bibi Cameron, one of my favorite card makers. I actually bought this stamp set after I saw the cards that she created using this Be Lovely set, which are absolutely gorgeous, just like everything that she does. I will also have the link to her page in the description down below if you want to check it out. Bibi Cameron's trick to heat embossing just the skirt is to stamp these images again on a piece of vellum and heat emboss it. Then we'll have to fussy cut the skirts and adhere them on top of the images that we have already colored. I chose a super fine silver embossing powder. Because the liquid adhesive will show through the vellum, we have to be extra careful and try to not apply too much glue. Notice that I am only applying liquid adhesive in the back over the silver heat embossed sections so it won't show. So basically, I'm using the heat embossed areas to hide the liquid adhesive. Now we can finally start assembling these cards. Here are some of the die-cut flowers that I already had ready to go. I keep them in these plastic trays where uncooked manicotti pasta comes in. These are great for storing small die-cut pieces because each tray comes with 7 sections, so we can keep die cuts from the same die set in one tray, but all sorted out. And I also love that I can easily stack them. These flowers and leaves are from many different die sets from Spellbinders. I like to once in a while do a lot of die cutting at once, so I always have them handy, and today I will put some of these flowers to good use. I also want to show you this die set by Spellbinders before we begin. It is the Santa's Fireplace set, and I am showing the set because it has this tiny die plate that will cut out 2 pieces to make a bow, which I will be using. For this beloved card, I will use some purple and yellow flowers. I love this color combination. You will see me using a piece of press and seal from now on. That is so I can easily pick up many die cut pieces at once after I have them positioned, just like I plan on adhering them to add liquid adhesive in the back. I also like to use a self-lock pair of tweezers when working with very small die cut pieces. I find it to be a very handy tool to have. I will also go over the flowers on all of these cards with my shimmer pen because I love some sparkle, and I will give you a closer look on all of these cards at the end of this video. Even though I like the Bearly Arts glue, when it comes to adding embellishments, I prefer using the Gina K Connect glue, which is what I'm using right now, to add flat back silver beads to the center of these flowers. I will also add a pink one to the center of the pink bow that I placed on her hair. Moving on to the second card, I will place a die-cut apple over her hand. To make this apple shiny and glossy, I will go over this apple with my shimmer pen and then top it with a generous amount of Ranger Glossy accents. Using my Copic marker, I will create a colored cardstock that matches her top so I can die cut a bow that matches her outfit. Once that's done, I can again start playing around with these die-cut flowers and try to figure out the colors and shapes of flowers that I want to adhere to this card. At the end, I decided to go with blue and yellow flowers, and I added yellow flat back beads to the center of each one of these flowers. Moving on to the last card, I will add lots of yellow and purple flowers, and I will also add yellow flat back beads to the center of each one. I decided for this one not to add flowers over this frame on the top like I did with the other 2 cards, since it is such a beautiful intricate die cut and I wanted this frame to show more on this card. Inspired by Bibi Cameron's cards, I also added a tiny flower to her hair. I was able to add some shape to this tiny flower by using this manicure dotting pen that I actually use more for crafting than for doing my nails. And the same thing happened to my makeup brushes. I use them for crafting and they now live in my craft room. So here are the completed cards. I will give you a closer look at each one of them now. I'm crazy about these images and I love the vellum skirt idea. In the future, I plan to make more of these cards with these little girls with different skin colors, and when that happens, hopefully I will be using the correct ink pad. I really enjoyed creating these cards and I hope you enjoyed watching this video and felt inspired. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you do not miss the next one. Remember, you can always find links to my blog and Instagram in the description down below for more information and pictures of these cards. I really appreciate you watching this video. It means a lot to me. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be lovely, be happy, and see you next time.